What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Wire. It is Wednesday night, and it is time to talk sports. We've got Richie Phillips and Marvin Scott in the house. We got Tony Ray joining us in just a little bit. We're going to get things kicked off with some NBA, and there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as a variety of topics. There's kind of one topic that umbrellas the whole conversation, but first, there is something I wanted to bring up to you guys. The Cleveland Cavs have released a sports analyst this week that they intend to trade or waive their 30th overall pick in the 2019 draft, Kevin Porter Jr. After a locker room outburst he had once he learned that his locker had been given away to Taurean Prince. Kevin's locker was then moved to another side of the room. Now, guys, reportedly, Kevin Porter Jr. got into a heated verbal dispute that led to him throwing objects and then food, according to ESPN reporters, in the locker room. He was then asked to clean out the locker. Stats-wise, Porter has not played this season due to unspecified personal reasons. The 20-year-old averages 10 points a game on his career with a 44% field goal percentage. I mean, he's a good NBA player. He's not, you know what I'm saying? I've got some questions for you. What are your guys' thoughts on the Cavaliers' repercussions to this outburst? And do you think the frustration was warranted? We can also kind of wrap back around to what we've talked about before with the ignorance in youth and hoping, we've talked about second chances and blowing it, for lack of a better term. Richie, what's your take on all this craziness?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. A couple dynamics. First and foremost, Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be a good player. Now, how good he'll be, we'll have to see. He's very young and clearly immature. But I didn't see, even at this point, he had no shot, in my opinion, of being the starter this year or anytime soon in the next couple years, because Colin Sexton, their number one pick, and Darius Garland are both playing those positions, point guard and shooting guard. And they're both undersized. They're both 6'1". So you already have two undersized dudes. So you can't throw Kevin Porter at small forward. He's 6'4". Just not going to work. He's a shooting guard. So he's not going to be replacing Garland. So in the grand scheme of things, this might be beneficial to his career, but it's a terrible way to start it off. Ultimately, what happened in a nutshell is he's upset that he got placed further down the locker room bench, so to speak. And the reason why he's upset is, well, I already have my locker here. This guy's coming in new. Why doesn't he just take the locker? So it's this seniority pecking tree thing. And I understand from that perspective why he'd be upset. But again, we have to be adults. Throwing food is just ridiculous, But as I've always been consistent, he's a young man, just like the college kids, and they make mistakes. Hopefully he can learn from this. I'm so shocked that it bothered him to that level, quite frankly. My understanding is he had talked to Kobe as well, the GM, and he was yelling in his face. And then the coach was just baffled. So which is why they're okay, we got to get rid of him. But at this point, I think this is going to be bad for Cleveland from the perspective of they're not going to get much back. I mean, the league hearing this kid's a nutcase in that sense that mentally they're not going to he was a first round pick last year, so they're not going to get that much out of for Kevin Porter Jr. They might get a second round pick, but for the locker room's sake, they're going to have to make this trade. They're going to have to get rid of him. They're going to have to dish him. In my opinion, he's going to be a do not play or did not play until they figure something out. But like I said, I do think long term this will probably work out better for Kevin Porter Jr. In his profession. But this is not the way to go about it. And just like Markieff Morris, there's certain things when you make mistakes or you renege on contracts and you do things that teams notice these things. So I guarantee whoever trades for this kid, because someone will trade for him. He's a talented kid. He's an undersized shooting guard, but he's just very skilled. He's very, very skilled. Good shooter. Somebody will take him, but there's always gonna be that apprehension, and I really feel long term this is gonna cost him money. This is how can you justify expecting to get big money when you're undersized and you're hard to work with and you're immature? And again, just to clarify, guys, he's 20 years old, so immaturity kind of comes at that age. And this is why sometimes people always say, well, This is why we don't want a kid out of high school, because you get results like this. At the end of the day, completely unacceptable. Hopefully he's going to learn from it. But yeah, the team has to move on. You know, you can't just kill the, I think what really did it for him is it would have been one thing to even throw the food. But I think yelling at Colby Altman is what did it. When you're screaming at the general manager who can trade you, not the best idea. And I really think that's where it came down to, is the yelling portion. The food and the antics, I think, you know, he would have been suspended for a few games, in my opinion. But when he started cursing at the general manager for making him move lockers, I think that's where it was the death knell. And just to clarify, it wasn't actually Kobe's decision, it was the coach's decision, because the coach came in and was like, what is going on? And then he found out after the fact. So terrible situation, kind of silly. This feels like Shoegate, what we were talking about earlier. You know, it's just one of those things where, really? He threw food? Because he had to move a locker, you know. But
who throws food, man? Honestly.
I don't know, man.
Well, Marvin, I've got a question for your take on this, but Richie, Marvin, I actually have a little early surprise for everyone. That's right, we got Tony Ray here to chime in. Whoa. So, hey. So, Tony, we're going to kick it around to you right after we kick it to Marvin. What we're talking about is Kevin Porter Jr. getting now being told that he's going to be traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers after his outburst in the locker room. His locker was given away to Taurean Prince and reported not only throwing objects, throwing food, but now we've also learned from Richie screaming in the general manager's face about his locker being moved. Not a lot of surprise that he's being traded. Marvin, my question for you, and I know we've talked about this on and off the air before, the kid doesn't come from the best of neighborhoods, right? So he represents a certain demographic that we've talked about and that we've asked, you know, in the past for more help for this. Being 20 years old in the league, obviously didn't get a lot of mentorship through college, right? So he didn't play a full career in college. He didn't get that opportunity. Do you think that these teams have a responsibility to either bring in, say, like veterans of that franchise or other veterans within the NBA to mold, maybe have a confidential meeting with some of these players, somebody that they know they can go to when they're dealing with issues on a big scale? Because it's not just as easy as you get signed to the NBA, you now make millions of dollars and you're this rich person who shouldn't have any issues, right? You're still the person who's come, especially Kevin Porter Jr., come from a really rough upbringing in Seattle, you know? So what are your thoughts, Marvin?
Well, I feel like this. You won't let these kids come out of high school anymore and come straight to the league. And in a lot of ways that's understandable, but there's got to be a level of culpability for these people that work in these franchises, because you're bringing these kids in ultimately and you're giving them millions of dollars, and you have to bring in veterans that can give them guidance. Because like you said, these kids don't come from the best of neighborhoods. They don't spend 4 years in college. They don't have a coach, a collegiate coach that can really take them under their wing and show them, not only a winning culture, but morals and values to come with it. So I definitely think there needs to be a level of responsibility general managers need to have, instead of just quickly giving up on these guys. Because, I mean, this is just one incident that he's had with the team. He's 20 years old. Immaturity definitely comes with the territory. I mean, he's not a knucklehead by any means. Sure as he's gotten into some legal trouble outside of the team, but that was handled. Obviously they still kept him if it wasn't that serious. So I don't understand how, if he gets into trouble with the cops, but he doesn't, but throwing food, you're willing to trade him. It just doesn't add up. Like, you keep him because he mishandled firearms and he clears that case. He throws some food, just has a temper tantrum. You're just ready to get rid of him. That's just a culture. This comes to the culture with these franchises. Like, it's not ever since, and you've seen it, especially with Cleveland, especially with, it starts from the owner on down to the general manager, into the coaching staff. Ever since LeBron James left, the culture's changed. Obviously, you got, like you said, we've hyped up Sexland, but if you've got a young kid and Kevin Porter Jr., 6'4", undersized guard that you can develop, you have to have some responsibility and build around a young core guy. You can't just get rid of them and give up on them. So to answer your question, there needs to be a high level of culpability for these franchises to nurture these kids. I mean, but also on the other end, these guys coming into the league, these young guys, they got to understand that you only get one shot at this. You know, you only get one shot, and you can't blow it on shit like this, you know, because they're clearly sending the message that these teams are willing to just cut bait on anything and every little thing that these guys do, especially these young guys. So if you want to bring them into your franchise, if you want them to be the future of your franchise, then you need to give them some guidance. And on the other side, these young guys take advantage of this shot. Like I said, it's one shot. There are so many other athletes that don't get to make it in that position, that would love to be in that position at their end, especially Kevin Porter Jr.'s position. Come on, man. Get the come on man of the week. Come on.
Yeah.
There's so many dudes that would love to be in his shoes.
It's the whole thing's crazy. He threw food, right? And that's like you're talking about, essentially, and yelling at Colby. And it was a locker. Like, it's not worth your whole career, guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's a locker. It's a locker. And I'm disappointed. I'm totally with Marvin. You know, I think Porter Jr. with because we're about to talk to it in a little bit with Jared Allen and the trade that was made. You know, you have Taurean Prince, but I don't know if he's really like that long-term answer. They already have Larry Nance Jr. So it's just, you know, that's whatever. Like the Prince thing is like, that's what's kind of irrelevant, not to be rude to Prince, but you know, Porter Jr. could have been a big part of this team. Like, do I think he would have ever broke starter? Probably not, unless they traded Darius Garland, because they're not going to trade Colin Sexton. But with Jared Allen, they would have had a young team. And I think what Marv said was like the best way to describe this is they have no leadership, right? Like the elder statesmen are Kevin Love and that goofball JaVale McGee. Like they just don't have that like locker room leader and that presence. And it's very disappointing that they would cut bait with a first round pick from last year who's going to be a promising player because he had an emotional breakdown. Look at what the Nets are doing with Kyrie Irving. Just throwing that out there. Tony, what about you, man? What do you think?
Well, you know, I'm glad to be on the show, first of all. Second of all, you know, coming into it, I didn't really know what my opinion was going to be. But now that I know what we're talking about, you know, I give a lot of blame to, you know, you got to understand where these kids are coming from, where people are coming from. You have to have a network put in place in order for them to be successful. So who do I blame? I blame the people at the top. I blame the head coach. I blame the veteran players that are there. And then most of all, if he has one, I blame his sport agent. Okay? Because a sport agent is supposed to take care of all different aspects. Okay? They're supposed to take care of, the negotiations. They're supposed to take care of responsibilities when it comes to contract. They're supposed to take care of public appearance. They're supposed to take care of providing you advice when you need it, because you're in a completely different realm, right? People don't change. If you give them money, they're still the same person. They just have money now. So you need to educate them on what they should be doing with that money, with their lifestyle. And it's just a suggestion. It's not saying you've got to do this if you want to be here. It's more of, these are the things we'd like for you to do and try to accomplish while you're on our team. To be a Cleveland Cavalier, you've got to bleed, you've got to sweat, you've got to know what it means to be a Cleveland Cavalier. Take the Browns fans, for example. They've had 18 years of misery, okay? But they ride and die with that team. And that team went from a laughingstock to a completely different style team this past year. And it was all because of leadership. And it was all because of veterans that were on that team. It was a mindset. So they've got to change some things. This kid made a mistake, but guess what? Richie brought it up. So did Kyrie. Guess what? They brought over another knucklehead to play on the same team with Kyrie and KD. You don't think he has problems? He's got problems. People have problems. I'm Tony Beach. I've got problems. Okay, Justo's got problems. Marvin's got problems. Richie's got problems. But we're here together for each other for when those problems arise. We're not going to just kick Richie to the curb because he's eating cheese on the H2G podcast. It's not going to happen. It's not how it goes down. Things happen, ladies and gentlemen. Things happen. It's upsetting. It really is. It's upsetting that they want to just throw him to the curb because, he flipped his Mercedes, the SUV, right? He had been drinking earlier that night, November 15th, and then he gets found with a gun being in his car that he didn't know was there. And now because he has this incident in the locker room, you want to trade him? You want to release him? I mean, Santonio Holmes had marijuana charges left, right, and left. Ricky Williams had marijuana charges left, right, and left. There's players that have been accused of killing people.
Ray Lewis killed a guy.
And they still playing. I think this is minute. For them, it might not be. It's their franchise. It's not mine. But it's ridiculous, in my opinion. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse and to keep going, but what Cleveland's upset because Cleveland's not the Cleveland Cavaliers that they want to be. And they're trying to make a scapegoat grab some headlines or whatever it might be, and they're doing it in the wrong way because this kid, number 1 overall last year, 30th pick. So he has some issues. Help him get over those issues. There's a player that's playing in the NFC Championship that most people wouldn't give him another chance. Headache. But he's a baller. He brings distractions, but he's a baller. That's all I gotta say.
Man, oh man. Speaking of knuckleheads, speaking of distractions, we have got another hot topic, the hottest topic in NBA right now. If you Google what to talk about in NBA, this is all you're going to find. And what I think is kind of comical is, fellas, some years ago, back in 2011, we often talked about a team with 3 powerhouse players and what we thought that would do. And here we are in 2021. And man, all right, let's just get into it. The Nets traded 3 first-round picks. They traded LeVert, Allen, Prince, and Kurux, and I'm sorry if I said that last one wrong, and 4 pick swaps for James Harden. So a massive trade that happened between this and the last episode of The Wire. We did discuss, should 76ers take them serious? But we never even brought up this chance at these 3 players, I don't think. But now that I'm wrong. That happens all the time. I'm okay. I'm not going to be like Stephen A. I can admit when I'm wrong. So we're gonna dive into it. I do have a question to get it rolling, Richie. First and foremost, what advice do you have for the first-time head coach Steve Nash right now? Because he's going to be dealing with Kevin Durant and James Harden, who seem to be playing well together this week. It seems to work, right? It seems to work. And the looming question mark of Kyrie Irving, who's clearly not, at least we don't know what's going on, but we know that basketball is not a priority right now for Kyrie. What's your startup advice? We'll start there with Steve Nash and what he should do.
Ooh, I mean, you're giving me a hard thing here. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say for Steve Nash. Hope Kyrie Irving doesn't come back, honestly, because he's the one who said we don't need a coach, right? Like I don't want to throw Kevin Durant in that lump. That's what Kyrie Irving said, not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is friends with both Kyrie and James Harden. So when James and Kevin are on the court, it's going to look fine. When Kevin and Kyrie are on the court, it's going to look fine. But like we talked about at the beginning of the year, we don't know. And how is this going to work when you have 2 of the top 5 usage players on the same team, like being able to play? We know James Harden. We've seen him. When he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's a terrible teammate. He just stands around. He doesn't do anything. When Kyrie, when Kyrie's got it, he's not much better. I mean, he might move a little bit, but he doesn't really, set screens or even go for any fakes, nothing like that. Kevin's the only unselfish one that's willing to do anything. But what I would say to Steve Nash outside of keep Kyrie Irving off the team is, you never deserve to get hired in the first place, man. So just run with it. Who cares? He really didn't deserve that job. I'm sorry. Like, it makes no sense to me that Steve Nash, who has no coaching experience, gets picked up over so many other like talented coaches. It was abysmal. Quite frankly, I was shocked Doc Rivers, didn't have an opportunity. They hired Steve Nash instantly. It was like they didn't even look at anybody else. And I'm not saying Doc would have led them to the promised land, but at least you have a coach who's got experience with divas his whole career. That's what he's dealt with. He dealt with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. He dealt with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. I mean, there's so many people. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. There's so many players. He's dealt with that. Steve Nash kind of played with it, but not. He's never coached. And we'll see how things go. And we already talked about this previously. I don't think Steve Nash is handling the coaching position very well based on how he's been responding to the media about Kyrie Irving. Let's not, yes, Kyrie Irving we don't know what's going on with the guy. But as I said last week on The Wire, it's not our business. And to me, Steve kind of threw him under the bus with what he said. So I don't see how he's going to manage this well. I don't think he's capable. I don't think he's a leader of men. I think he's one of the boys. And I think that's like, he reminds me of Pete Carroll, where a lot of the players love playing with him, but he's not what I would call a great coach. Like, they get the job done and they had great teams, but he never coached them to win. He was just a really good, like, that a boy kind of guy. And I think Steve Nash could be that, but I just don't see this working outside of, unless they're playing extremely well. He's not going to be the piece. Steve Kerr is another guy that I've always felt is extremely overrated. Side note, and I feel it's similar. He's from that Steve Kerr architecture. Okay, you have a lot of great players on the team. Well, let's see how good you're able to get your rotations going and come the playoffs. This stuff doesn't matter until we start getting into the playoffs, right? I don't care how well they're doing or how poorly they're doing, because the bottom line is they'll make top 8. And then we'll see how good Steve Nash really is, because we don't know. But my advice to him is keep Kyrie off the team. That's your best hope, man. Because when all three of these guys are on the court at the same time, it's not going to go well. Like, yeah, there's going to be games where they all light it up and they might score 180 points. It might feel like an all-star game, but that doesn't mean anything until they hit the playoffs. And that's when we'll really see with how sensitive all three of these players are, how they're going to do.
Man, well said, Marvin. We've seen time and time again. Let's say that Steve Nash doesn't take Richie's advice and Kyrie comes back. We've seen time and time again how with three powerhouses, somebody has to take a back seat. I mean, we had the whole, and then there's Bosh. What can be done if all three are there? Who out of those three is going to be the most willing? And I think we know the answer to this, to take that back seat, and can they afford it? If it is KD, what are your thoughts there?
I think James Harden's going to be willing to take the back seat. And I know you'd be shocked that I'd say that, but if you look at the last few games and you look at what James Harden did with Houston those last couple of years, he did lead his team in assists along with Chris Paul. He was an assist leader on the team. And when you have three players that are high usage, especially Kyrie Irving, I think that he is in more of an on-ball guard. He needs the ball in his hands. But I think that if Kyrie can get used to playing off the ball, that's going to be the biggest challenge. Can Kyrie play off the ball? And Steve Nash has to come in and be that coach that was hired to do this job, be that Hall of Fame point guard that we know him to be, to tell Kyrie he has to play off the ball and convince him to play off the ball, because James Harden is a better ball distributor than Kyrie Irving. It's just facts. And if Kyrie and KD and James Harden, they already work. They've already played together. They've already spent years playing together in OKC. They already know how each other plays. They played with each other in All-Star games. So they already have that chemistry on the court. You saw that in James Harden's debut. But I think that Kyrie is going to have to be the guy that takes the back seat, because, obviously and evidently, he hasn't been playing. He hasn't been playing the game of basketball. So he's going to have to take a back seat to either two, because you can't just shove stars together. You can't shove chemistry together. And it's like what Richie was saying. It's all about the playoffs. It's all about who has the most chemistry, who has the most togetherness, who has the most cohesiveness. And we've seen that with the Lakers. That's why they're the champions. And that's why, I mean, we've seen big threes with Golden State that work. We've seen Boston. We've seen numerous big threes over the years. But this is going to be the biggest challenge. And you've got a Hall of Fame point guard in Steve Nash. I'm going to say I believe that he can get this team to the finals, but he's not going to be the X factor. I mean, you've got a coaching staff that's not defensive minded. So that's going to be a challenge. And you've already gone up against teams in the East that already have that togetherness and that cohesiveness already. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think they're playing. They've already played, and it was a back and forth game, and that was without Kyrie Irving. So it's going to be interesting to see how they plug Kyrie into this, because they're extremely limited at the top now. You got rid of Jared Allen, you got rid of Chris LeVert, you got rid of a young core of guys that really help establish their depth. And now that they don't have that, now you've got DeAndre Jordan at the 5 and nobody behind him. So that's going to be a challenge. No Jared Allen there. So they're jelly inside. So if they actually do go to the finals and they have to go against the Lakers, what you going to put Jeff Green and Anthony Davis? I don't think that's going to happen. So, and Mike D'Antoni is one of the assistant coaches who doesn't emphasize defense. Good luck. You got 3 players, like you said. KD, not worried about it. He can take 12 shots and drop 30 in his sleep. Doesn't matter. But the other 2 are going to be a challenge. If Kyrie has the ball in his hands the most, and he's not willing to take a back seat, James Harden, like Richie said, will stand around and get fat and be in that combo guard that he's supposed to be. He will just eat more combos. And
you
just
saw
stand.
that jumpsuit, man. He was looking.
I mean, he's a shift shaker, like shape shifter. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it.
He looked pregnant.
He was pregnant.
3 days later, it's like he lost 35 pounds in like 3 days.
Like he did a 9 to 5 at Golden Corral.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Justin, I want you to show our audience a photo of him.
Yeah.
See it. So just see how pregnant this. Just take a look at this right here, folks. Look how pregnant this man is, courtesy of Getty Images.
God.
This boy looking like he robbed Golden Corral 9 to 5. He had 36 plates. Look at that. He can't even.
He had
take
a plate for every
off.
point he averages.
Exactly. That's a fair point, Justin. That is a fair.
Tony, I saved this for you because I'm interested. Regarding Kyrie Irving, can you defend him, or where does the responsibility lie? Should this all be on Kevin Nash? No, Steve Nash. Should this be on? Because let's not kid ourselves. Steve Nash is the coach, but your boy KD, this is his team. This is Kevin Durant's team, right? Kyrie Irving, let's not forget, wouldn't even be here if Kevin Durant didn't want him to here, right? Does it rely on him, or should Kyrie Irving just decide to retire and deal with whatever he's dealing with? I mean, we don't know what he's dealing with. It's not our business, like we've said. But he's being paid. The fact of the matter is he's being paid still around $20 million this season, and he's literally missing in action. Nobody has any idea what he's doing, where he's doing. And like we've said, who cares? We don't need to know that. But somebody does. If I'm paying him $20 million, I'd like to know. What are your thoughts, Sonny?
Well, I could be wrong, but I think he's not getting paid for the games that he's not playing. Am I incorrect when I say that statement? I believe he's not being paid the games that he's not playing. You can only get paid when you play in the game. So yeah, on the books, it might seem like he's going to hit you for $20 million. But we've said it last week. I'll say it again. Kyrie Irving is going through something, and we have to respect that. Now, for Kyrie and his team, maybe to free up some cap space so they can do something early rather than later, maybe he could retire so that way the team can readjust, maybe get some role players. I don't know who's still available, if that's even an option, if they could do a trade to get some role players. All those things are going to be on the table. But for Kyrie, that's up to him to decide. And that's up to, the Nets to decide what to do. If it was me, I would respect his time. If I'm the Nets, let him work through what he needs to work through. When he comes back and he's eligible to come back, I'd let him have to sit out for a little bit to get his legs back to where they need to be, because obviously he's not going to come back and play style. And maybe that's a conversation that I would have with Steve Nash and say, listen, Kyrie's on his way back in. What we're going to do is we're going to slow play him into the role of playing full time. Then again, you're also giving that usage rate to Harden and you're giving it to KD. So it could work out in the Nets' favor if they do it that way. If he comes back in and he's like, oh, I got to start and all this other stuff, you got to put him in his place and let him know, listen, you went MIA. I respected it. Okay. I didn't say anything about it. The coach might have misrepresented what he meant to say, but that's okay. I already had that conversation with Steve. But for you, this is what I need you to do. You're gonna play 10, 12, 15 minutes for the first 5 games, get your legs back under you, and then we'll work you back into the rotation. If you've got a problem with that, then we're gonna need to have a different kind of conversation. That's what I would do. But still, for everyone else that's out there, it's Kyrie Irving's problem, issue, life. He's got to work through that. I'm going to respect that. That's why I went and got James Harden. Okay. That's why I went to go make these trades and give away all my first round draft picks so that way I can get this to go. Because my goal is to win now. I got KD in house who sat out a whole year because of an injury. And I had a plan to bring in all these other people, right, to make this happen. I got to roll with the punches. Now you decide to go MIA. I gotta, shuffle the cards differently. I got to play some cards different. So you got to respect me just like I respected you.
Absolutely. Richie, I see you stirring over there. What you got?
Yeah, just 30 seconds, guys. All I got to say is I am shocked by this. Marvin mentioned it earlier. Tony just alluded to it. The Nets mortgage their future on the next 2 years. Because again, Kyrie and Kevin can opt out and they have no draft picks. They traded away Jarrett Allen, who is going to be a superstar in this league, in my opinion. He's 22 years old. He was averaging, 12 points, 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. He was behind DeAndre. Jordan started because they're giving him the starts and then they pull him and let Jarrett in. So they have to me, what should have happened is the Rockets should have traded it to the Sixers. The Sixers, the reason why they wouldn't do it is they were willing to give Ben Simmons and 3 picks, but they weren't willing to get rid of Tyrese Maxey. That's absurd to me. If you have Harden and Embiid, I feel like that's a stronger team for Philadelphia. And for the Nets, I feel like keeping your future and keeping Jarrett Allen with KD and Kyrie, if Kyrie comes back, is going to be that's a better team. Jarrett Allen is going to be a 20 to 25 points per game type center. He's honestly already a top 5 defender, and he's going to average 12 to 14 rebounds. He's 22 years old. So you lost this kid for James Harden. Again, James Harden's amazing, but I don't know if it's the right fit. And for Philadelphia, shame on you. Tyrese Maxey is the difference between you being able to win a championship or not, and you didn't want to give that guy up. To me, Philadelphia was stupid, Houston's stupid, and Brooklyn's stupid. I feel like nobody won on anything. The only thing is the Cavs can ship off Andre Drummond and keep Jarrett Allen, but like we already talked about, they're a terrible organization. Support Jarrett Allen. All I gotta say is I hope that boy gets an opportunity at a quality organization. Brooklyn, you stupid. Cleveland has no chance. Man, get your money when you get a chance. Jarrett Allen is going to be the best center. I think he's gonna be better than Embiid because he actually wants to play basketball. Big difference between them.
Any last takes on James Harden or the NBA before we go to commercial?
I don't know if
it looks scary.
Yeah, I don't know if you brought it up before the show started, but I mean, we know Kyrie's going through some stuff, but there's a lot of trade rumors going around about Kyrie being traded as well. Kyrie going to the 76ers, Kyrie going to the Pelicans. There might even be a chance that Kyrie goes to the Lakers. So sources say, from what I've been looking at, that there might be potential trades. Once again, it's all rumors, but I'm here to just tell you that's what I was looking at. It kind of piqued my interest. But if he can't even show up to play for the Nets, what makes you think he's going to show up and play for these other teams? Unless that's why he's not playing. I don't know. The story's not all out. Hopefully we can break it to you here on The Wire.
I mean, honestly, I don't understand it. I really don't fucking get it. I think he's tanking it on purpose, Kyrie. I think he heard they're trying to get Harden, so he's like, all right, I don't want to look at cracks in the
Hey there, it's Justo from the H2G podcast.
Hello there.
Are you ready for season 4?
Yeah.
I love the way it sounds.
Gotta get my meatwad voice ready.
This season will be bigger and better than ever.
But thank you, man. I'll take it. It's good to see you.
Catch the H2G podcast season 4, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, the best part of my week.
And don't miss The Wire every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It's been a long time coming.
We'll see y'all next week.
Welcome
Welcome
to the H2G
to the H2G
To the H2G
podcast.
We'll see you there.
All right, welcome back to The Wire. We're about to get into some football, the NFL playoffs. Yes, it happened, ladies and gentlemen. We had some great games. We had Rams versus Packers, Browns versus Chiefs. We had the Bills versus the Ravens. We had the Buccaneers meeting up against the Saints for the third time. And could it be Drew Brees' last time in a Saints uniform at Mercedes-Benz Dome? I'm just saying, we don't know, but I will tell you some recaps really quick. You had the Rams, 18 points, Packers 32. That boy Aaron Rodgers did his thing. That's all I got to say. We had the Browns versus the Chiefs. Hey, the Browns made it real close, 17-22, coming down the wire down there. Some things happened in that game, but we're going to fill you in a little bit later. The Ravens with 3, the Bills 17 points. Something else happened in that game that might have flipped that game to go a different way, but hey, it was the Bills the whole time. And then we've got the Buccaneers versus the Saints, 30-20. So let's break down into it. Richie, I wants to know about that boy, that bad mama jamma, Aaron Rodgers going up against the other Donald. I'm just wanting to know what happened in that game, Rams versus the Packers.
What happened in that game? There's so many things I want to talk about, but first, the story and the highlight is not just the number one offense going against the number one defense. It was 85 rushing yards by Green Bay. 1, against the number one defense. 2, that is the most rushing yards Aaron Rodgers has ever had to work with in a playoff game in his entire career. They had 3 touchdowns off of play action passes. And they actually would have had 4, but a young man named Alan Lazard dropped the first one. It was in his hands, he dropped it. He ended up making one back, and it was a big difference. But believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, the score was not indicative of this game. Even though Green Bay had 500 yards. Even though Aaron Donald only played 55% of the snaps and was not effective because of his injury. This game was close until 6.5 minutes when, like I said, on 3rd and 12, Lazard got a great play action. Boom. Touchdown. It goes from 7 points to 14. Right before that, the Rams had scored and converted on a 2-pointer to make it a 7-point game. Jared Goff played the game of his life, to be honest. And honestly, at the end of the day, what this came down to was Aaron Donald was injured. When he was on the field, he was getting doubled the whole time. He was not effective. Let me be very clear. But there's a saying in sports, if you're on the field, you stay on the field. The coaches didn't pull him. They allowed Aaron to make his own decisions. And he decided to play about, I believe, 52 of the 80 snaps, something like that. But it was 55%. I did the math on that one. It's 55% of the snaps. And when Aaron was on the field, he was getting double. Now, again, due to his rib injury, he wasn't able to breathe very well. He can't do those quick movements, and that's what he's known for, and that's what makes him that boy. But the bottom line is he wasn't effective. But had he stayed on the field, who knows? Maybe during those other plays, even if he tries to go a little light and he's getting doubled, his teammates could have done something. 0 sacks by the number one defense. 0 sacks. Aaron Rodgers said after the game, I didn't even get touched. And that was the story of the game. He didn't get touched. And you can't let the greatest passing quarterback, even over Dan Marino of all time, and I say that about Aaron Rodgers, he has the least amount of interceptions by a mile. I believe he has 81 total in his career. This dude is a beast. I think his career average at QPR rating, I think is like 108 or something. It's absurd. And just to give you an example, and Tony can look that up. It may not be 108, but a lot of your greats that you wouldn't even think about are significantly lower than that. I believe Peyton Manning is 65 QBR or something like that. It's absurd when you really look at like QBR numbers. Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. And to not get any pressure as the number one defense, you can blame, and again, that's how important Aaron Donald is, but the bottom line is, man, their defense really laid an egg there because they had a chance to win this game. They were 7 points down. I couldn't believe, like, watching that game and watching how ineffective that defense was. It was baffling to me. And here's a story. I'm kind of over the Rams. We know what they are. Aaron Donald is their key to their defense. Ramsey's a great cornerback, but it doesn't matter if the quarterback, like Aaron Rodgers, has time to throw it. And on offense, they have no hope. Jared Goff is not their future. As a matter of fact, they even talked about it recently that Jared Goff and Sean McVay need marriage counseling heading into the offseason because Sean McVay wants to get rid of him after he has not progressed in 3 years, and they gave him that massive contract in 2017. Matt LaFleur, the coach of the Green Bay Packers, phenomenal, 26-6, 82% win rate as a coach already. And this is exactly why we say, get out of the old guard. This is a new guy, just like McVay. These two were studs. They're great coaches. They had two great teams. And honestly, I'm just disappointed in the Rams. I'm disappointed that Aaron Donald didn't stick it out in terms of being on the field. And if it was bothering him that much, then he shouldn't have been on the field in the first place, quite frankly. Because that kind of half on, half off thing just was not effective. And he was getting frustrated. And as a matter of fact, he had a foul against him because he grabbed a face mask of a guard. He was frustrated and he yanked on him. It gave him 15 yards. They actually didn't convert the third down, but because of that bonehead penalty, they got a first down, 15 yards up, scored a touchdown. And wouldn't you know it, they end up winning by 2. And like I said, it could have, and they were only down by 7 at one point in the game. That could have been a tie game. So Aaron Donald was very disappointing. I was super. Oh, thank you for that. His lifetime QBR is 69.87. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. So anyhow, he's about 70%. And again, you think these numbers are higher, guys, when you look at QBR ratings. But Peyton Manning, one of the great GOATs of all time, 65. Colin Kaepernick, 60. That's what people always rag on him, is that he's 60. And Peyton Manning's 5 points higher than him. Well, Aaron Rodgers is 5 points higher than Peyton Manning. Does that mean he's that much better? Is it that big of a margin? And that's why these numbers kind of get a little goofy sometimes. So bottom line of this story is I can't wait to see Tampa and Green Bay, because what we're going to see is Green Bay ain't getting 185 rushing yards on Tampa Bay. Like, Tampa Bay's defense is pretty good. I think they're 11th, but they are great against the run. And I'm curious to see Green Bay. Again, phenomenal team. In my opinion, I expect them to go. To me, they're the most complete team over Kansas City, over everybody. They have everything. They got the run game, they got the passing, and they got the defense. And it's just really a shame watching the Rams, not nearly as good of a team, have an opportunity, but their defense stink it up. And we always talk about defense winning championships, but you had the number one defense did nothing. They let 500 yards go on that game. And that's the moral of the story. 185 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns off play action. That's why they lost.
Yeah, it was an entertaining game to watch, but we all knew how that was going to end. And I believe all of us, when we picked the Packers, except for Justin. Justin did go with the Rams, but we'll leave that for a little bit later on in the show. Moving on to a Sunday afternoon or evening type game. It's the Browns versus the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Patrick Mahomes and the fast Chief boys, all Chiefs, no Indians. There's all kind of leaders on that team. Leaders in receptions, leaders in yards, leaders in average yards rushing, average yards reception, throwing the ball, not even looking where you're throwing it. All kinds of stuff happening. Going up against the Browns, first time in the playoffs and won one in 18 years. Marvin, break this game down.
Ooh. Well, Tony, you got to be proud of the Browns, man. I know I've come on this show for the last, 6-7 weeks, and I have just chopped up Baker Mayfield. And rightfully so, a few of those weeks. But this week I can't do that. I can chop him up for a few bonehead plays, but that's neither here or there. The Kansas City Chiefs, Tony, y'all, they proved why they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. You saw Pat Mahomes go down with a concussion in the third quarter, and they brought in Chad Henne. Chad Henne is awful by all means. There's never been a starter in the league. Now, he's never been a starter since he's been at Michigan. I remember when I had NCAA college football back in the day when they made it on the PS2, I used to sub Chad Henne out because I thought he was trash. Neither here or there. But I think this game really was decided in the fourth quarter. I think the Browns had their chance. They blew it with some turnovers. They had to. And when you turn over the ball in the playoffs, you can't win. You just can't win. You can't advance to the next round. And they gave up 200 plus yards between Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. They were extremely shorthanded in the secondary, the Browns. So clearly from the start, they had no answer for Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, we got to say on the wire, is the best tight end in the game right now. There's nobody that I've seen this good really since Shannon Sharp. He was on Club Shay Shay that very week talking about what he was going to do. He was dancing before the game. He was very confident. He's got that swagger, that bravado. And the Browns just simply had no answer for it. They had no answer for his route running. And that's been the Browns' weakness all season. They haven't been able to cover the tight end position. It showed. And really what was really disappointing, y'all, was the run game. You really thought Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were going to come in and insert their will against this weak Kansas City run defense, and they just didn't do it. They got outran by Damian Williams. It really was shocking to me why they didn't just step up and, in a moment where, okay, you see Patrick Mahomes go down. That blood should have already been in the water. They should have already sensed it. They just couldn't take advantage of the moment, and they got eliminated. But hats off to the Browns. Going to the postseason for the first time since 2002. Think about what you were doing in 2002. I think the GameCube was coming out. I think LeBron James was still in high school. This is where Cleveland was 20 years ago. But you have, as a Cleveland fan, if you're a fan out there, you have to appreciate where they are now. You have to really be excited for their future and know that this is the standard. And the Browns coming into this game, it really was a reflection of, injuries. Injuries are so crucial, even in that last game of the season, because they really, really needed Odell Beckham Jr. They really needed him. And especially with Patrick Mahomes out, that's your chance. If they were fully loaded at receiver, I think that they would have had a chance to win that game, because Rashard Higgins dropped it, caught a touchdown, dropped it, touchback, gives the Chiefs the ball, gives them another possession. That cost the Browns points. It was classic Browns. It was something that you had seen on the Believe Land documentary. I was like, oh, Lord, it's happening again. That's why y'all see me on the wire. You, Tony, Richie, Justin, y'all all come at me talking about you're too hard on Baker Mayfield, too hard on the Browns. No, it's because this is the heartbreak I was talking about since the beginning of the year. This is the heartbreak that you saw in the 80s. And I was scared because I didn't want to. I knew we would get to this point. I knew if we somehow got to this point, there'd be a player or two on the team that the lights just might be a little too bright. His back might get a little too tight. His palms might get a little bit too sweaty in the moment to handle it. And that's exactly what happened. And so I think that if you look at the Browns' future, they got a great defense. Myles Garrett had a phenomenal year and had a great game. Chased someone down in the game. That just shows his testament and his will to want to win. So obviously you can see this game is a culture changer for the Browns. It should be, but this is a testament to the Kansas City Chiefs. Your best quarterback in the league goes down. You rally behind your backup quarterback who hasn't seen the light of day since Michigan and throws an awful interception. But somehow, some way, the Chiefs get it done because that's just what champions do. And so I think that the Browns will be back. They will be back in the postseason if they continue to. I think they should bring Odell Beckham back. I think that you should give him another shot to see what this team can do in the postseason again. You got to give this team a fair shot for them to be fully healthy because the defense wasn't fully healthy going into this game. That secondary from the start of the season was really, really good. But when you lose Denzel Ward, you're really your best cornerback in the secondary. It really just leaves no room to stop Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. So they had no answer, and Chiefs deserve to go to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, when I was watching the game, what stood out to me the most was Patrick Mahomes had hurt his foot. And then I was like, oh, the Browns, man, they got a chance to get this going. And he's limping, but he's still throwing dimes. And I'm just like, dang, like he had a couple throws that were off just because of the foot injury, but he was still making things happen. And then he goes down with the concussion. And I'm like, oh, crap. The Browns go down, they score. I'm like, here we go. The Browns can actually come back. What changed for me was when Andy Reid, great coach, goes for it on 4th and 1, and they converted. That's, to me, what tells the difference between Andy Reid and a lot of other coaches. Mike Tomlin had the same scenario the week prior, and he didn't go for it. He punted the ball, and Cleveland took the ball all the way down and scored. And it changed to a 19-point game. Whereas if you would have scored and then Cleveland would have went back down, it still would have been a 14-point or a 13-point game, okay? So in reality, it comes down to coaching and it comes down to great play. The Cleveland Browns will be back. They're going to do their thing. I don't doubt that at all. I'm happy that they did it. The last time they were in a divisional playoff game was 1996. So 1996 was the last time they were in a divisional playoff game. 18 years ago was the last time they made the playoffs, and it's 2020, and they made the playoffs. Browns, keep it going. Don't revert back to the old Browns. You've got a great team. Make it happen. Justo.
Yes, sir.
Sunday night football. You got TB12 versus DB9. Okay. Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. Tell me what happened in this game, bro.
There's a word that comes to mind to just start all this off, and it's a word that Richie already used. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that may be the last time we see Drew Brees, because he has been a fantastic quarterback and has had a wonderful career. But I don't know what was in the water on Sunday night, because that was a disappointing showing. That is not how you play in the playoffs. He knows better. I don't know. 134 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Doesn't even sound like Drew Brees. I feel like Alvin Kamara was severely underused in the game. But to be honest, looking at the game as a whole, the Bucs just outplayed the Saints on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. I don't think Brady had a necessarily spectacular performance. He 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think what Tom Brady did is what he's done better than any other NFL quarterback, and that's not make mistakes when it counts the most. He played perfect football. That's what he does. He doesn't always have these huge Aaron Rodgers games. He doesn't always have these huge blowouts. He's consistent and he's perfect a lot of the time. Not to say he's perfect all the time. He played TB12 football, and that fills the position for me anyway. The offensive line made it look worry-free. So shouts out to the Tampa Bay offensive line. Tom Brady had all day. He looked comfortable in the pocket. To me though, MVP and probably the primary reason for the win, in my opinion, is Tampa Bay's defense. They made the Saints' day hell. They kept them from ever building momentum. I got to give congrats to Sahi. I got to give congrats to Tampa Bay, even though we're missing Sahi this week. But I said this last week about the Browns, and I mean it even more so this week. I'm not convinced that Tampa Bay is ready for the Green Bay Packers. I am not. We'll get into that, but they need to keep their head on their swivel. They need to be. TB12 needs to not only play a perfect game, but he needs to have a Tom Brady week. He needs to go the F off. The defense needs to keep up the good work, and they're going to have to work real hard because that's a bad man. And they're playing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're playing in the Cheesehead backyard, aren't they? Lambeau Field. Man, it's a tall order. It is a tall order. I think Tampa Bay's got a shot. I don't want to call them out of it, but man, this game was incredible to see. Not even incredible, actually. Overall, just disappointing. Overall disappointing because the Buccaneers did what they should have done, I guess, with New Orleans playing the way they did, and with Drew Brees having the showing that he did. But yeah. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that translates into the championship game. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, we will see it. One of the great stories was, Tom Brady was throwing the football to Drew Brees' son in the pregame before they started playing, and you could see that Drew Brees was emotional when he was leaving. He was waving to the crowd. He made sure that they had a little bit of a moment, him and Tom Brady at the end. Could it be the last time we see Drew Brees play for the Saints or in the NFL at all? That's still to be determined, but it would be sad to see him go. It's so sad to see these older quarterbacks get pushed out of the league because they don't have the capabilities to continue to do what they used to do. And it's really quite sad. I don't like watching somebody at the later end of the years when they start to fall off. Tom Brady, he keeps coming back, and I keep telling myself, man, just quit. So that way we don't have to see you when you suck. But he doesn't suck. He always makes it through. I picked the Buccaneers over the Saints, even though the Saints had they pounded on the Buccaneers twice, and I still said TB12 in the playoffs is different than TB12 in the regular season. I can't go against Tom Brady. I don't like him, but I respect him. Okay, you gotta respect that he's that good. He's not falling off. But for Drew Brees, was it a bad game? Yes. Do we have bad games? Yes. Brett Favre, when he went out on the Vikings, I was rooting for him. And when he did what Brett Favre does best, which was throw that interception, I fell apart. It's like watching Michael Jordan play on the Wizards. Oh God, just make it end. Retire already. Just end on your legacy. Don't come back and play. But that's a different time. Now, I get to talk to you about the Ravens. Woo! It started with an R. I almost had it. The Ravens and the Bills. And let me tell you about this game, okay? At halftime, it was 3-3, okay? You couldn't take the ball down the field. You couldn't move the ball like you wanted to move. There was punts that just kept happening. There was defense that just kept happening. And then you come out of halftime, okay? You come out of halftime, and it's a totally different game. Let me tell you about the first half, real quick. 3-3. The field goal kickers, they sucked. And we're talking about Tucker. 1 for 3. The Bills kicker, 1 for 3. It was terrible. It was not good at all. You come out of halftime, the game had changed. Okay. The Bills scored 7 points. If I gave you the stats right now of the entire game, you would think that the Ravens would have won, but they didn't. This is what happened. The Bills went down and scored. Lamar Jackson takes the Ravens down the field and throws an interception in the end zone. Ran back 101 yards. 101 yards. Top speed 26 miles per hour. Thanks to Richie. Richie's giving me all kind of notes. 26 miles per hour this boy was running. Lamar Jackson couldn't even catch him. And Lamar Jackson's fast. The boy is fast. 14 points third quarter. It's now 17-3. Okay? Lamar Jackson gets the ball back. He gets hurt. Concussion. Should have been a safety, but they put it on the 2-yard line. All right? Then you have Huntley come in. I believe that's his name. He comes in. Can't move the ball. Can't do anything. Let me just break this down to you. Total yards, the Ravens had 340. The Bills had 220. The Ravens had 190 yards passing. The Bills had 188. The Ravens had 150 yards rushing. The Bills had 32. Okay, time of possession. The Ravens had 35 minutes. The Bills had it for 24 minutes. No fumbles, 1 interception, ran back for a touchdown. Both teams had 4 punts. All right. The Ravens had a better third down efficiency than the Bills. But let me tell you what the difference was. The difference was quarterback play. And this is why I say that. Okay. Josh Allen is a bad mamma jamma. He ain't Aaron Rodgers, but he's a bad mamma jamma. Floating under the radar in the AFC, floating under the radar in the NFL. Everybody wants to keep getting props to people that don't deserve it yet. Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback. I'll ride and die with Lamar Jackson, but I have to have a specific style type offense for Lamar Jackson. I don't like that. I want a quarterback that I can do run, I can do pass, I can do play action, I can do pistol, I can do wildcat, I can do whatever I want to do. That's the kind of quarterback that I want to have. And you don't have that with Lamar Jackson. With Josh Allen, you do. Lamar Jackson throws dimes. Lamar Jackson throws dimes, but Josh Allen throws better dimes. Okay? Josh Allen is a complete quarterback wrapped up that doesn't get enough credit. I can put Josh Allen in any system that I want and he can get it done. That was the difference. Lamar Jackson didn't show up like he was supposed to show up, but he didn't. And that's the sad part because now he's going to get ridiculed for that. Even though he won his first playoff game, Josh Allen as a quarterback to me was a difference maker. And that's the difference. And they're both young. We're all going to see what they're going to do. But guess what? You're in the NFL with Pat Mahomes, okay? With Deshaun Watson, okay? With Aaron Rodgers still going strong. With Baker Mayfield, I know Marvin, I know, but Baker Mayfield, I'm just the guy from the Chargers. What was his name? Hubbard? Hubbard? Hey, I'm just telling you, we're in for it for next year to see what's going to happen. But the Bills deserve to win this game, and I think the Bills have a shot to contend to go to the Super Bowl. But I will not say it yet because I still have to go with the Chiefs because the Chiefs are proven. The Bills are not. So with that, we're going to get into next week's games. And I got to go over the recap real quick. So Rams, Packers. Justin was the only person that picked the Rams. Richie, Saheed, and I picked the Packers. So we all got 1 point, except for Justin. The Ravens were picked by Justin and Saheed. The Bills won. Richie and I got that, so we got another point. The Browns and the Chiefs. Saheed went with the Browns. But Justin, Richie, and I went with the Chiefs because that's what you do. We all got a point there. The Bucks. I picked him, Saheed picked him, and Richie picked him. Justin went with the Saints. So the total is Justin with 1 point, Richie with 4 points, Saheed with 2 points, and me with 4 points. Now moving into this week, Saheed's not here, but Marvin is. So we're going to float Justin an extra point. So now Justin has 2 points, and we're going to give Marvin 2 points. Even though you might have got all 4, Marvin. We don't know, but you weren't here. So we're just going to keep it fair, okay? But for this week, we have the Packers versus the Bucks. And I want to know who you got. Marvin.
I have the Green Bay Packers.
All right, Green Bay Packers for Marvin. Who you got, Richie?
I gotta say something before I make my pick. Tom Brady is arguably and easily the GOAT. He's won 9 of his 13 conference championship games. He's appeared in 13 of 19 in the AFC and 1 of 1 in the NFC. He's been to 14 championship games in 20 seasons. He's won 9. He could easily win 10. It is hard to ever pick against Tom Brady. Tony hit it earlier when we both picked Tom over the Saints. All year, we've been talking about the Saints and the Chiefs. The Saints and the Chiefs. And I couldn't pick the Saints. I couldn't do it. But here, and watching what I just saw the Green Bay Packers do to the LA Rams, who have the best defense in the league, I gotta go with that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. I really feel like even though Tom Brady statistically is the winner, like the best winner I've ever seen, even over guys like MJ. I mean, how 14 out of 20 times he's been in the championship, man. That is crazy to me. But sorry, man. You're going to be 9 of 14. You will not win this one. Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers.
But Richie, I got to ask you something real quick. Tony, I got to ask y'all something. Who going to cover Devontae Adams?
Nobody. Ramsey couldn't, and he's arguably the best cornerback in the league.
Yeah.
And just so you know, he only played in 14 games. Devontae Adams is 70% of Aaron Rodgers' targets. So good luck. He's going to get the ball. And
good luck is the word.
Good luck stopping Devontae Adams. That boy is crazy. Good luck.
He's a bad man pajama. And I actually forgot to bring up Stephon Diggs on the Bills earlier, but I'll get back. I'll get to that later on. But Justin, Packers, Bucks, where you going?
Look, I think that this would be an incredible, I know it can't happen, but an incredible Super Bowl. This is going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion. I think this will be entertaining. This will be great to watch. You should line up a concert for halftime because this is going to be a show. I don't think either defense in that aspect is quite ready for the opposing offense. I think it's going to look like Bama and Texas back in the day. It's going to look like a college shootout. And I'm going to stick with Green Bay because I think that the difference between Aaron Rodgers and TB12 is TB12 has his occasional big shoot games. Aaron Rodgers is just a hard-hitting mofo, man. I just think that it's going to be a heavy-hitting, high-scoring game, but I think the Packers will come out on top probably by 14.
Yes, sir. I'm also going to go with the Packers, but I'm going to go with the Packers for 2 reasons. Number 1, Aaron Rodgers. I know that TB12's on the other side, but guess what? You don't have Bill Belichick as your head coach to come up with a game plan to stop that weapon that the Packers have. And I don't mean Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about the 70% usage rate on that bad mamma jamma that he's throwing to. If you don't have a game plan to stop him, it's not going to happen for you. And Aaron Rodgers is going to find him. It's going to happen. So my pick is the Packers versus the Bucks. I do agree with you, Justin. I do believe it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm thinking somewhere like 38-45, but we'll see. I don't know. And they play in Lambeau. So come on now. Lambeau.
Might be snowing.
It might be snow. He might not even be able to pass the ball. We'll see what happens, but we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to go reverse order. Chiefs versus the Bills. I'll go first. Y'all know what I got. I love Josh Allen, boy. I love me Stephon Diggs, but I'm going with the Chiefs. You can't go against the Chiefs. You got Kelsey. You got Hill. You got that bad mamma jamma that used to play for the Steelers that don't do nothing, Bell. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got Andy Reid. Come on now. Do you think the Bills have an answer for all those playmakers? We'll have to find out, but I'm going with the Chiefs. Justo, who you going with?
Look, so we're a couple of days removed, and by the time this airs, there may be an answer, but we don't even know if Patrick Mahomes can play. He's got a 5-step recovery process that he's got to pass. He's got to put in the work. I think he's the player to do so, but even then, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes coming back and trying to lead this weapon-filled offense off of a concussion. off of a brain injury, man. That's if he can play. I think he's the man to do it, and I think if he shows up on Sunday, I'm gonna give it to Kansas City still because I think it's just too much. It's too much power, too good of a system. But I could very well be wrong. They're in trouble, in my opinion. If Patrick Mahomes isn't there to lead them, it's going to be a figure this out type of game, and Buffalo might have a real chance at going to the Super Bowl.
All right. Richie Phillips, who you got? Chiefs versus Bills.
Well, here's what I'll say. Justin made a good point, and I was going to get to that. We don't know, and just for transparency, this will be released on Wednesday, but we will not have that information at the moment. Having said that, even if he does play, I'm going to go back to the wire a couple weeks ago when I told Sahi that the Buffalo Bills were legitimate. He was trying to say, Tom Brady left, and no. The Bills are for real. Josh Allen is for real. And even though all year I've been beating that drum that they're going to be back-to-back champs, I'm changing my pick. I want to have some fun. If I pick the same thing as Tony, then it does, we're going to have the exact same score. I'm going with Buffalo. I'm being contrarian. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Now, you know what? Diggs don't get in the end zone like McAdams or Devontae Adams, but I'll tell you what, Josh Allen is used to. That's my dude. Patrick Mahomes is the Mahomie. He's still the best quarterback in the league, but there is no hotter team than Buffalo, and Kansas City has not looked great for the last month. They haven't. Now, Kelsey's looked amazing. Mahomes has looked decent. Tyreek Hill hasn't really done that much. I haven't seen them in their former glory. Now, a month ago, this wouldn't have been a contest, but Buffalo's won 8 straight. They dominated Baltimore. And again, Lamar Jackson is amazing. Lamar Jackson's so good. And they were both 7-0 going into that game. And everyone was talking about Jackson can't be stopped. Look at how they're playing. And even knowing that they couldn't, they didn't even try to run the ball. They threw the ball in 30-mile-an-hour wind because they said, we can't do that against Baltimore anyway. We're going to throw. So yeah, the stats didn't look good. Nothing happened, but Josh Allen got the TDs when he needed. And I think he can do it, man. Buffalo Bills. They are going to the Super Bowl and they're going to play the Green Bay Packers.
Wow, I haven't heard that since Jim Kelly. Anyway, Marvin, Scott, Chiefs versus Bills. Who you got?
This is tough because Stephon Diggs was on my fantasy football team and he helped me win a championship. So I'm extremely biased in the moment because I got nothing but love for Stephon Diggs. He's a great wide receiver. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the game right now. Minnesota did him wrong by giving him up, but he has found a home with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Josh Allen. I love it. I love the duo. But like I said, it's a duo. Where's everybody else? Where's the run game? You only got Devin Singletary back there. You got Devin Knox. You got some complimentary guys, but you got a duo. And that's just not enough to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. How can you have a duo go up against pretty much a 3-headed monster? Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and the best quarterback in the game right now, Patrick Mahomes. How do you stop that? I don't think the Bills, they're for real, but they ain't for real yet. And I don't think it's their time yet. They've been to 4 Super Bowls in the past. They've been there before. They have, as an organization, they have hope. They have the team, but they're about a piece or few away from getting there. But this is just not their time. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. Yes, sir. Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching The Wire. But before we go, I need 20 seconds from everybody right now to give me a little insight of how you think the Jaguars' new head coach is going to fare next season. Marvin.
I think he'll fare nicely. You're getting the number 1 pick in Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars were trash, absolute garbage, a hot mess this past year. You need a coach like Urban Meyer to come in and change the culture. And you got James Robinson at running back. You got a nice little core wide receiver. So I think that Urban Meyer is going to be an excellent fit for the Jaguars. And if not, get them ready for for the postseason and get them back to what they used to be. Get them to be a team of pride. I think Urban Meyer's got for the job.
Richie.
I have a shocking take. Jaguars trade the first pick. Don't take Trevor Lawrence, and they get Deshaun Watson. And I would love to see that. That's all I got to say.
Justin, 15 seconds. Go.
Glad to see Urban Meyer back. Anything's better than what they got going on now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Once again, you're listening to The Wire. We're going to have more for you next week. We'll catch you later. You're listening and watching The Wire. My bad.
I'm telling you right now, I blame Lamar Jackson for the loss. I think that it's irresponsible to be. He looked at him dead in the eyes. He had 2 quarters that he could have played with the wind at his back.